Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is SYAHMI bin ZULKIFLEE 191467. My group and I will talk about the muzara'ah or sharecropping in the agriculture industry based on analysis and integration that we made. Agriculture industry is crucial to the economic growth. According to the World Bank, agriculture development will be able to achieve food security. About 80% of poor countries reduce poverty and raise income. Improvement in the agriculture sector should be emphasized to attain Goal 1 and Goal 2 of Sustainable Development Goals or SDG, which are to end poverty in all its forms everywhere, and number 2 is zero hunger. Established as the second goal need to be achieved by 2030 on this plan under Sustainable Development Goals. Zero hunger by all means places a higher importance on areas such as end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Became widespread when the landowners managed possessed slaves and millions of freed slaves eager to work at the end of the Civil War in 1965. Under the system, the black families rented the land from the landlord. In exchange, they will share a portion of their crops with the landowner. The problem of sharecropping during that time is the tenant families are heavily in debt, forcing them to carry the debt over to the next year due to high interest rate, unpredictable harvests, and corrupt landlords and merchants. After World War II, sharecropping faded out in the United States when machine usage became imminent in the farming sector. Islamic civilization, the Prophet Muhammad SAW introduced the muzara'ah regarding the food production in Arabian Peninsula. Bilal al-Muzdi received vast land between the Red Sea and rock formation. During that time, the Arabs were unconcerned with agriculture and relied on trade and exchange of goods to obtain the agriculture products they did. Sidi and Umar al-Khattab received vast land in Khyber to cultivate, build and invest in for that land. Before we explain in details, we need to define the definition of muzara'ah. Muzara'ah means joint act of planting or partnership in farming. The different school of thought has own different meaning of muzara'ah. Hanafis define muzara'ah as contractual agreement on farming against a pre-agreed share from the crop of outputs. To the Malikis, it is joint partnerships on crop. Shafi'is determine muzara'ah as agriculture work, and for Hanbalis, muzara'ah is a provision of land to a peasant to work on it to share a specific non-portion from the output.
Malaysia is a tropical rainforest climate where there is no dry season that really suits in producing certain agricultural products. Among the productions are rice, rubber, palm oil and also coconut. Malaysia also has a prosperous land and natural resources. Many studies show that the concept of muzara'ah, which is also known as sharecropping, as a useful concept to increase agriculture production. A study by Muhammad and Noor Aini, they state that muzara'ah also has been implemented between Felkra Berhad Seberang Perak and the participant, even though there is certain term that Felkra did not follow. Basically, Felkra, which was established in the early 1970s, is to develop agricultural production in Malaysia. Under the Felkra agency, the amount of dividend that farmers earn is not fixed because it is based on the amount of earned production, which are palm oil and rice production. It shows that there are similarities between the agricultural project by Felkra and the concept of muzara'ah. Thus, the Felkra applies the concept of muzara'ah to develop agricultural products. Furthermore, we would see the element of muzara'ah in Felda management and its partnership, which is known as settlers. A study by Rifhan, we found that The Muzara concept is applied by Felda as managers and settlers as the owners of the land initially. Rifhan also states that the condition of Muzara was fulfilled by the contracts because the land has been handed over to Felda to develop the land and identify which crops are suitable on that land. Basically, this contract would lead to higher production, especially palm oil and rubber, because Felda would ensure the farm are in the cleanliness standard, maximum yield production, and also the quality of production. Apart from that, through the agricultural project, Felda is believed to have eradicated absolute poverty among Malaysians and led to a higher standard of economic living. According to the study by Fauzi, he explains the settler would get at least 1,200 per month, which is above the poverty level at the time. Therefore, the element of Muzara'ah, which is being applied by contract between Felda and the settlers, that would help settlers to increase their level of income and also lead to a higher production of palm oil that contributes to Malaysian economic growth.
Basically, if there are lands that have not been utilized or used, it will bring loss to the community and also for the country. The Middle East has a vast or wide land area. According to Scholastic, the land area in the Middle East has an area around 3,500,000 square miles, which is slightly smaller than land in the United States. Barley and wheat are the major crops grown in the Middle East land. However, even though the Middle East has such a wide land area, there are issues regarding agriculture problems in the Middle East that cause wasteland in that region. The first issue is regarding the climatic factors. The main important element in the agriculture is water. Even the Middle East has a wide area of land, but they have a problem in the excess of water. This happens due to the rainfall only falling from November to April, but the remaining 6 months will be summer. Hence, it is difficult to have enough water source to use such a wide land for agriculture activity. Secondly is the historical factor. Irrigation farming is a base of this civilization. When it comes to agriculture, a good irrigation system like a river is the most crucial component that they need for agriculture purpose. However, due to the historical factor, what else happened in that region that caused the damage of the irrigation system? Even though there are efforts to repair the irrigation system, war keeps happening and make it difficult to repair. Next is the problem in the Middle East area. Marginal area is land with little or no potential for agriculture activity. If we compare between the Middle East area and the United States area, even though the United States still has a marginal land that is not suitable for farming, but the width is smaller compared to the Middle East area. Not to forget, marginal area in the United States are not occupied by any resident. Contrary to the Middle East area, marginal area are packed with the residents. In addition, land tenure is also one of the agricultural problems in the Middle East. The problem with the land tenure in the Middle East region is that there are lack of opportunity, lack of example and guidance, and lack of institutional buffer against calamity. With this weakness, it will bring difficulty to the farmer or peasant because, for instance, there is no exit solution for a natural disaster like flood which cause destroy crops. Last but not least, there is no proper development plan even though there is a plan to upgrade the agriculture system in the Middle East. However, the progress is too slow. This problem is caused by the policy and plan of the administration. As we can see, in the Middle East, there are many problems that affect the production in agriculture. Thus, to solve some of this problem, sharecropping method may become the most efficient way to increase agriculture production level. There is a study regarding the sharecropping method that has been used in Jordan Valley. From this study, we can see whether the Muzra'ah or sharecropping method is efficient or not. Jordan Valley is a rural area which depends on the agriculture problem as their main source of income. However, even though agriculture production is the main source of income of the household in the area, the profit from the agriculture production is still remain low. Thus, it can be said that poverty of Jordan Valley is twice as high as the different regions in the area. To be added, families in that area struggle to survive due to the problem in the excess of land to run farming activity, which are their main source of income. To solve this problem, in the excess of land, muzara'ah or sharecropping method can be considered by the household that live in the area. People who own land and have a secure right will have a sustainability agriculture practice. In the area, there are three types of crops, which are greenhouse, perennial, and open field. From the studies, sharecropping tend to use greenhouse system compared to others. The annual income for perennial system is the highest, followed by the greenhouse system. Results show the pros if the household use a sharecropping method. Firstly is in terms of farming income that households generate using the different system. The farming income is the highest compared to others who own land and rent land. Using the sharecropping method, households in the Jordan area generate $60,445 per year, which is the highest compared to households who own land and households who rent land. Next is in terms of agriculture production using different systems. The production level of sharecropping method is the highest compared to the other system. The sharecropping method generates around $12,000 of the production value, which is the highest compared to the others. Thus, the majority of the households in the area use the sharecropping method. This statement can be strengthened with the fact that the cultivated area using sharecropping method is the widest, which is 2.55 ha. The cultivated area to those who own the land and who rent land are 0.85 and 1.31 ha. However, there are still the cons of using the sharecropping method. Sharecropping system is complicated compared to the other system. This is because this system will have a complicated relationship between landowner, land manager, and land. Other than that, shareholder agreements vary in a variety of shape and size, which may impact how sustainability is addressed on sharecropping farm. To conclude, sharecropping or muzara'ah system can be said to be efficient in the Jordan Valley because it generates more income and increase production level, and at once will reduce the poverty level in the area.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is AALIAH binti Haji Muhammad RAFEE and I will be presenting a case in Africa, especially Nigeria. In an article titled An Assessment of the Sharia-Compliant Muzara'ah and Local Sharecropping Practice in Kano State, Nigeria, the authors found out that the local sharecropping called Kashe Murabba Partnership Contract is a traditional type of sharecropping. This local sharecropping partnership is a contract where the owner of the land physically offers his land to a peasant to cultivate and share the yield. Furthermore, three popular methods are currently being adopted by farmers in Nigeria, namely the ACGS model, the NACB, which stands for Nigeria Agricultural Cooperative Bank model, and the microfinance model, which is the MM model. Commonly, these three models are associated with high interest charges, heavily emphasized on collateral, as well as the scarcity of the loans, which means the lack of sufficient funds available for the farmers. Theoretically, the idea of Kashe Murabba does not contradict with any Sharia ruling. The practice, however, contradicts with the Sharia-compliant Muzara'ah. Unfortunately, this is because of the presence of some elements involved in the practice of Kashe Murabba, which are gharar, breach of trust, injustice in sharing ratio in distributing the yield, exploitation, and to some extent it leads to serfdom, which is exactly what the Sharia provision refuted. This contract is less patronized by both local farmers and landowners. The SCGS scheme provides guarantee to cover for the loans advanced to the agricultural sector by the banks, with the promise to pay the banks 75% of any outstanding default by borrowers. Financial institutions involved in the scheme grant loans to the farmer with a promise to pay back the principal and interest. The figure above shows the SCGS model. The products mostly pass through the middleman before reaching final consumers, which enable them to exploit the farmers due to their lack of entrepreneurial skill. It has been stated that the scheme failed, and the failure is attributed to the following 7 constraints: the scarcity of loanable funds due to the lack of bank support for the scheme, which means banks were not ready to borrow on short term and lend on long term to farmers; inadequate capital base, high default rate by farmers, inability of the borrowers to offer acceptable collateral for significant amount of loans, which impose a limit on their probable scale of operation, the inability of the loans to cover cash and tree crops owing to the long gestation nature for such projects, delays by banks in processing and disbursing loans, and poor monitoring. The NACB model was also created to ease credit availability to the local farmers. Over and above that, high interest rate for this model is unavoidable. Farmers would usually end up with little to no profit. This model is a failure because instead of increasing productivity, this model instead discourages farmers to produce more. The figure above shows the NACB model. For the microfinance model, it has been noted that although it emphasizes less on collateral, which means it is easier for poor farmers to access the loan, they charge higher interest compared to the conventional banking system, although the size of their loan is smaller. Due to this model hardly contributes to agricultural productivity. The figure above shows the microfinance model. Not limited to that, some scholars stated that farmers are subject to exploitation through a high interest rate and could not benefit from those advantages associated with the partnership system of business. Therefore, there is a dire need for an alternative model of financing that should be interest-free, collateral-free, and should also be able to improve the logistics aspects of agricultural activities. In this situation, the state has opted to implement Muzara'ah as a better option for the agricultural sector. In the implementation, they have observed that Muzara'ah is a revolutionary method that could be used as a source of funding to equip rural farming population in Kano State by providing direct access to land from surplus landlords to landless farmers and employing their labor and thus alleviating rural poverty. A study was done in which the author studied the socio-economic impact of Muzara'ah model on Nigeria. He noted that the model has a positive impact on social economic activities. This is due to the benefits of the model, which are the ability of this model to promote economic growth in the agricultural sector, reduce unemployment and develop rural areas. The figure above shows the proposed Muzara'ah model. In 1A, financial institutions enter into partnership contracts with farmers to provide capital. In addition to that, financial institutions will also provide necessary logistics to facilitate access to the market. The farmers will then contribute in the form of labor and the products are taken and sold in the market. Later on, in the market, profit and loss are made. Lastly, profits and losses are shared between financial institutions based on agreed profit and loss sharing ratio.
In France, institutional economists are becoming increasingly interested in the rationale of sharecropping. In cases when farming has extremely high amount of risk, tenants are indigent, and credit markets are unstable, landowners may prefer sharecropping contracts compared to rental contracts. This was not only because rental farmers were more likely to default, but also because sharecropping contracts provide landowners with the assurance they needed to risk lending their tenants needed for cultivation. In France, there was a few sharecropping contracts which based on region. First, complant contract, which a sharecropper established a new vineyard on uncultivated ground on specific time. The land, inputs, and supervision are provided by the owner, and if the renter does not continue to grow the mature vine, the tenant usually will be compensated. This contract aims to produce new vineyard in France. The other example of contract is with Norenage. In this contract, sharecropper is obligated to stay in the farm, and they are blocked from working outside the farm. In return, they will receive half of the wine produced by the owner. Sharecropping contract in France commonly used for livestock and wines, and it is rarely used for cereals.
Sharecropping was popular in livestock because the trade of animal can be easily managed by the proprietor and agents in the market. While vines are extremely well liked during the mid-18th and early 19th centuries. Compared to England, vine yields in France is targeted to have annual profit of £9, while in the West Land of England, the return gift were around £6 to £7 on average. Sharecropping in France are facing low productivity. Geographical factors play a role in resulting the low productivity in France. The high clay content of the soil increase the number of draft animal and labor required in agriculture. Land could be improved by mulching, liming and draining, but this operation need large amount of capital that could only be justified by the future demand. Besides, the poverty rate among the farmers are quite high, in which only a few of them have enough resources to feed their livestock properly. During second quarter of 19th century, there are new hopes for the farmer to improve their production and level of productivity. Meat costs doubled between 1850 and 1874 due to rising urban demand, creating a major encouragement to concentrate in livestock. Simultaneously, the large-scale project of building rural roads and railway, which began in 1836, improved access to urban markets and greatly reduced the cost of imported inputs. On the other hand, all of the prospects can only be utilized if there is a development, particularly in terms of investment. As a result, most farmers expand their investment by building tanks and pipes to carry river water to their pasture. All of the improvement paid off when labor productivity, which have been below average in 1840, exceeded the national average in 1892. According to the analysis, sharecropping play a role in this outcome. It may be observed in the growth for animal production.
What are the impacts of Muzara'ah on agricultural production? Firstly, in Malaysia, the implementation of Muzara'ah and Felda projects, due to its success in eradicating poverty, over 100,000 families, Felda has been described as one of the most successful land settlement organization in the world by the World Bank in 1985. Because of the concept of land settlement, it could develop for 823,000 hectares of land in 1990 and give a large contribution to the Malaysian export. Next, the implementation of Muzara'ah needs to be improved in terms of financing activities between bank and the farmers. Based on the recent study by SYAFIEQ and MOHD, they concluded that most of the farmers in the survey said that they will get enough profit during the first cycle of cultivation, because of the assistance subsidy given by the government. Then the farmers cannot develop the land for the second cycle of cultivation due to absence of subsidy. Therefore, they suggest that Islamic agricultural financing should be introduced into this area through agricultural product and loss sharing.
With this Muzara'ah model, farmers will be able to get an interest-free finance with the absence of collateral, which means no interest rate burden. Not to mention, this model eliminates the exploitation of middlemen. Muzara'ah-based agricultural financing is a viable investment means for financial institutions. With this model, the risk of moral hazard associated with loan distribution will be reduced significantly. On the economy as a whole, Muzara'ah made it possible for farmers to increase the quality and yield of their products. As a result, income will rise and the poverty rate will decrease. Overall, the implementation of this model will reduce external dependence on food, thus improving food security. Moreover, the implementation of Muzara'ah will aid the Islamic financial institutions and state-owned enterprises focusing on agricultural development to develop a set of rules and regulation for effective implementation of the model. The model will also help Islamic financial institutions to shift their focus from debt-based modes of financing towards participatory sharing-based modes of financing. The combination of these shifts as well as the unique characteristic of Muzara'ah was observed to assist both micro and macroeconomic growth. On the other hand, it is important to note that Kashe Murabba is also an option to begin with. However, its tainted reputation due to the lack of ethical business conduct has made the contract unpreferable by the partners. The study done recommends the need to adjust the practice of local sharecropping in such a way that it will preclude all the Sharia contradicting elements as provided by the classical scholars of Islamic commercial law, particularly Maliki school of law, as adopted as the law of the land, so as to become Sharia compliant contract which will help in achieving the socio-economic as well as religious well-being of the local farmers in Kano State.
The changes in sharecropping management, such as feeding the livestock with a better and cheaper feed, made the cost of production lower, but at the same time the yield source increased. The consequences from this factor actually helped sharecropping to increase the labour productivity in the areas. Besides, sharecropping actually helped the farmer to get out of poverty. When the labour productivity increase, automatically they get more return from cultivation and crops. According to Carmona 2006, agriculture wage increased by a third in real term from 1850 to 1885 and by 40% again from 1885 to 1921. Besides, the sharecropping helped to utilize uncultivated land in the countries. It can be seen when the purpose of certain sharecropping contracts such as compliant contract is to create a new vineyard on the uncultivated land in regions around France. Sharecropping contracts in France were often agreed in oral form. There is no written agreement on the contract as the two parties usually only agree by oral agreement between them. Hence, it becomes difficult for them, especially in the situation where one of the parties wants to claim their right related to the contract. So they should give priority in the documentation, such as recording all relevant and important information to ensure that they have accurate information about the contract. However, this suggestion is based on what writers have read about the sharecropping in France during the 18th to 19th, as the writer do not find any latest information regarding the sharecropping contract in France during the current era.
Other than that, the problem of Muzara'ah is in terms of complicated relationship between the different parties, which are landowner, land manager and land. Moreover, different forms that come from the variety of shareholder agreements lead to different outcomes in terms of land sustainability. The famous form of sharecropping method requires landowner to cover all of the costs, for example the cost of irrigation water and agriculture input. Thus, landowners have the power in the decision making that makes land manager constrained to make a decision. In this situation, land manager, which is farmers, have less power to raise their concern or voice regarding the agriculture system. However, there are certain situations when farmers are more expert than the landowner and they want to voice out their concern. Thus, to improve the Muzara'ah system, it is suggested for all parties to make an agreement which gives some power for land manager to make a decision in order for Muzara'ah to be more effective.
The failure of Kashe Murabba in Kano State is mainly because of the absence of strict Sharia compliance in conducting business. Without a strict observation of Sharia rulings, other Islamic-based contracts may also fail due to this negligence. Without exception, also include Muzara'ah. Additionally, the Muzara'ah should be developed in order to fit different situations faced. Being Sharia compliant does not equate to being stagnant. Therefore, the development of Muzara'ah is crucial in order to keep its relevance in the modern era. To begin with, the relevancy of this contract stems from the justice it brought upon the partners. Thus, the goal of this contract should not be altered by the interest of individuals, political parties, as well as any organizations.
In conclusion, all challenges need to be eliminated to ensure the implementation of Muzra'ah will be systematic and effective. The comparison and analysis between Malaysia, France and the Middle East help us identify the current problems of Muzra'ah model, and in this way we can integrate all these problems, challenges and recommendations into one part to develop the better Muzra'ah model. The better Muzra'ah model can ensure to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals as mentioned in the introduction, which are Goal 1 and Goal 2, to eradicate poverty and to ensure the nutritious food by all people by 2020.